Today I'm going to show you how I made the most useful tool in my workshop, this shop boom that is able to rotate and reach across all points in my shop, and it allows me to both suck up all the dust and power any tools that I'm working with. Here's the thing, there are two big problems that exist in almost every shop out there, and that's having instant and constant access to dust collection and power for all your tools at all times. Today, we're going to set out to solve that problem. But first, we need a really long piece of wood. No, this small piece of wood won't do. Now, through some endless research through reliable sources, I found several designs that others have created to solve this problem. But I think that we can improve on most of these with some special features planned within hours. And most of these designs only allow for dust collection, but I'm wondering if my idea will allow for power that can really surpass all the limits that I've had up to this point. But we will have to see this later on if I'm able to make this possible or not. So, to get started, I'm going to take this really long piece of wood and trim the width down to 4 1/4 inches, since I don't think we'll need much more than that to support the weight of the hose. Since I'm building with melamine, I'm running one side along the blade with it only cutting halfway through the thickness, and then I'll flip it over and cut the other half. This will ensure that the white won't chip away. I started with a small triangle design to see how that would look, and I made the template a little bit too small and had to move clamps out of the way to finish the routing. I quickly decided I want larger triangles that stood out more and was able to move a lot faster after remaking the template. Then, it was time for one of the arguably most important, yet easiest parts of the design, a hook to hang the hose from. I basically just eyed this design for what looked right to me, started with a rectangle, and then added an angle on the back length and easily cut this out with a jigsaw. I've got this extension cord reel that I picked off of Amazon, and I'll have everything I'm using in this build linked below. And I got it in green to kind of match the theme that I've been going with in the shop. And my idea is to wall mount the reel. It has 4 screws here, but then a bunch of screws around the circle. And I'm just gonna go get longer screws and actually try to attach a piece of MDF to this. And I'm hoping that the weight will be enough to support all the additional weight of the MDF so that the reel can extend along with the hose for dust collection. Let me show you guys how that goes, and hopefully this ends up working out. Let's see. Now, this part took a lot of trial and error, and now that I'm rewatching it, I'm thinking there was probably a lot easier way to do this. I pretty much laid the reel against the wood and tried to sketch out where all the holes and designs lined up. This took about 2 or 3 times to get it right, but if I had just taken a piece of paper and laid it on top of the reel to mark where the screws and circle were, it would have been nearly perfect the first time. I guess you live and you learn. So, the good news is the dust collection is looking pretty good right now. I decided I wanted to paint it black and give it some character before trying to hang it up on the wall. I took the hard way of placing the boom on top of the longer screws that were placed within the reel, marked it from underneath, and then drilled, versus just using the simple paper template trick. I then used some zip ties to hold the extended electric wire all the way out to the end of the boom, which would make it easy to grab the outlets anytime I needed. I made sure they were loose enough so that I could easily retract the cable anytime to get it out of the way. The next part was pretty fun because the whole thing is starting to come to life. I found this awesome looking clear 2.5 inch hose off of Amazon. I prepped the hose by adding this converter to the end of it with the help of some blue painter's tape and aluminum tape that would allow me to seal off any air gaps. And this converter will now allow me to attach any smaller shop vac hose to it. I took some hose clamps and routed this hose along the entire boom. This would ensure the hose would hold in place when the suction was on instead of shriveling up. Now, apart from finding the stud and pre-marking where the bracket would go in, the next part was the most difficult of it all, and that's largely due to the fact that I'm just one person in my shop, trying to lift this entire boom while screwing it all in. After I struggled time and time again, I finally got it in and felt pretty good about the entire build.
It's great!
Until the worst thing imaginable happened.
Alright guys, it's been a little bit of time and I've been testing out my boom for the shop vac and electrical wire, and as you can see, I've had a failure. And I was kind of expecting this, and that's why I wanted to wait and test it out and do a quick fix. The reel with the reel being attached to the original design, it put too much weight on the plastic and it made it you know, kind of bend over time. And then the failure actually happened on the boom because the clamp for the hose was attached to one of the thinner parts because we did the cutout design with the holes, and the screws ended up being the failure point because it weakened that point where it's just too thin. A couple ways you can combat this. You don't have to do the holes like I did, and I think the wood I used was not a good idea. But what we're gonna do today is I actually found a video by Lincoln Street Woodworks. He's got a pretty good video on his own shop boom. It doesn't have the electrical wire, but it has a form of a shop vac, I think. Maybe there is an electrical wire, actually. Check it out. Anyway, so I'm gonna kind of do what Heath suggested for the part that is attached to the wall. I'm gonna actually do that out of wood so that my electrical wire reel isn't what is holding up the entire boom. That way the reel is just being supported by these wood pieces on the wall, just like the boom is, and it should be a lot stronger. So what I did here is I actually did a 12-inch by 12-inch square like you just suggested, and then I cut it in half. The first triangle again. So let's clamp that on here and draw a line. If you ever had trouble with hinges, I'm going to show you a quick, easy trick that'll let you have the full range of motion with the boom arm. Because if you attach the hinge, you know, just onto each side and in the middle of this wood, and this wood will be the stud on the wall, you'll have the full travel to the left, but once it comes up straight like this, it can't go any more to the right. But what we're going to want to do is we want to have the ability for this to swing all the way out and come even here. So if we attach it like this, it'll come up like that and then all the way around. Okay, so all right, and now we're going to take our second triangle piece and line it up with the bottom of the entire thing. So this is the top. This will line with the bottom so that the boom will sit up here. So just like nice and aligned. Okay, so that's nice and tight. All right, so now we're just gonna come over here and do the same thing where just make sure you get it the right way up if you're doing it late like I did. Okay, so I want this to have just enough room for a bend like that on the wall. But way too much this time, like I always do. Just trying to mix it around. Whoa. Just like that, and just like that. Let's just clamp it so we can screw it on. Okay, perfect. That's pretty darn solid. That should be good. Alright, now we we need to connect the whole thing to the stud. We should be done.
Remember that pile of dust that was in my way before? Now I could easily suck it all right up from anywhere in the shop. Thanks for watching. Peace.